and I'm on Instagram. So I would love just shouting out to all the web people. I would love some kind of platform that allows you to stream to everything at once. StreamYard does that kind of. I think the problem is that Instagram doesn't let it integrate. Anyways, I rest my case. So I did the best that I could to line up the cameras. Here I am though. Hello, good to see you all. So glad to be here today. It is a Monday. We got our first snow today here in Denver, so that's exciting. But more importantly is what I'm going to be talking about today, which is brain fog, like one of the most annoying symptoms ever. So before I get into that, hello, my name is Kinsey Berkwin. I'm an integrative nutritionist in my online nutrition and wellness practice called Progressive Health and Wellness, where I work with ambitious men and women who are struggling with their mental and physical health by taking a root cause body-mind approach to optimize both mental and physical health because they're so integrated. So today, I'm going to be talking all about brain fog, what it is, like symptom-wise, what it is at the cellular level, what's happening in the brain that causes brain fog, and then common environmental causes. So things like toxin exposure, gut health, food sensitivities, especially when you understand what causes it at the cellular level, you'll understand why there can be a lot of different environmental contributors. But then I'll boil it down to some of the things that you can do within your nutrition, supplements, lifestyle that will have the biggest impact on your brain to support mental clarity. So before I get into it, welcome to the people that are joining. Welcome to the people that watch the replay. And if you're joining me live right now, or if you're watching the replay, please drop a comment. Let me know that you're here, where in the world you're watching from. Hi, Willie. I see you there. Thanks for joining. So good to see you. I haven't talked with you in forever. So let me know where you're joining because I love connecting and we have people all over the world that tune in. And of course, if you have questions, tag me and I'll make sure to come back and answer those questions. And then I'll also share one of my favorite secret weapon supplements that is supportive not only of brain chemistry and focus and mental clarity, but it's effective because it helps actually address some of the root issues that cause brain fog in the first place. So I'll share what that is all about also. Hi, Gio. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Jealous that you're in Arizona right now. I'm sure it's warmer than the 38 degrees that it is here. So that's fun. Okay, so brain fog. Brain fog, I have had clients ask, when I ask them, actually, if they have brain fog. Some people respond, they're like, I've always heard that. I don't know what it is. Can you describe to me what brain fog is? And I'm like, if you don't know the feeling, you don't have it. Brain fog is very obvious. I have struggled with brain fog myself. This really manifested for me after I had a history of gut issues, constipation, acid reflux. I've talked about my story before. It's what got me into this field. But it wasn't until I moved into a house that had mold, higher levels of mold, that my mental clarity was just like shattered. And of course, I just started a new job. I had just graduated college. I was like in this great place and then could like barely send an email. So what the symptoms are, this kind of fuzzy lack of clarity. It's difficult to keep track of things. So like keep track of conversations, keep track of what you were doing, keep track of, and that's why I say could barely send an email is I'd be in the middle of an email and be like, where was I going with that? Like, what was I saying? And that can happen in conversations too. In the middle of a conversation, your brain kind of spaces out. So it's a fuzzy feeling. Memory struggles, short-term, long-term, because there's just difficulty with recall. Drop a comment if you know what I'm talking about. If you've experienced brain fog, how did it feel for you? Let me know and I'll add to it. But feels redundant to say fuzzy thinking, like foggy thinking, but that's kind of what it is. But the focus is one of the hardest things. Focus and recall and following linear things, I think, are one of the biggest struggles of it. So brain fog, especially after COVID. So brain fog is a really big symptom of COVID, of long COVID. And so brain fog has been getting more attention even in like mainstream media lately. And when I was reading these headlines, I'm like, where have you been for the last 10 years? Like brain fog has been a thing for forever and you never read about anything about brain fog, but you do lately. So it's described in the kind of conventional world as not being a condition itself, which is true. It is the symptom of other conditions. And the reason being, so what causes brain fog at the cellular level boils down to inflammation. Now, that is very broad, really and truly, because when we talk about, I'm going to explain what inflammation, what I mean by inflammation in the brain. But when we talk about inflammation in the brain, that then trickles down. It kind of opens the door to many things in the environment that can cause inflammation. But what I mean specifically by inflammation in the brain, and I think this will resonate with you. You'll be like, yes, that's exactly what it feels like. So what I mean is when inflammation occurs in the brain's immune cells are called microglia cells. They actually outnumber glial cells, I should say, not just microglia, but glial cells, which are it's the Latin word for glue, gives you an idea because glial cells kind of it's the mass that helps hold the neurons together. So neurons are brain cells, if you will, nervous system cells. Glial cells are support cells. So there's astrocytes, oligodendrites, and microglia. And microglia, like I said, are the brain's immune system. Glial cells outnumber neurons 10 to 1. So by mass, the brain is mostly glial cells, right? So microglia make up that. And I like to think of them like trigger happy sharpshooters. So their job is they kind of scavenge and they're highly sensitive. And their job is to detect threats within the brain's environment. And when they detect this threat, it could be a virus like COVID. It could be a mycotoxin from mold. It could be other inflammatory chemicals, cytokines from the peripheral body. So different cytokines can cross the blood-brain barrier into the brain. That tells the brain, hey, there's a war going on in the rest of the body that you need to be aware of. And so those cytokines will trigger the brain, the microglia. So blood sugar swings can trigger microglia. Other toxins like metals or environmental chemicals, or toxins released by the gut microbiome, or pro-inflammatory chemicals like lipopolysaccharides released by the gut microbiome. Hormonal imbalances impact the sensitivity and the activity of microglia cells. So higher or low estrogen, for example, higher or lower progesterone, higher or lower testosterone, thyroid hormone, cortisol, right? So that's where you can appreciate. Oh, that's where I was going to. Inflammation from food sensitivities and foods that we eat. Again, if it's triggering inflammation in the brain, it's called neurogenic inflammation. Well, it'll trigger it in the brain and vice versa. I think I said that backwards. If there's inflammation in the body, it'll trigger it in the brain, but vice versa too. So brain inflammation will also trigger body inflammation. Okay, so we've got these microglia cells, right? They're trigger happy. We've got all these things going on in the environment that can activate microglia cells. And then when that happens, they start shooting off their chemicals. I don't remember. There's a Looney Tunes character that would shoot all the guns. If anybody remembers his name, comment and let me know. But anyways, that's what I picture. And so they start shooting off these pro-inflammatory chemicals to try to destroy whatever's out there threatening the brain. Now, here's what happens. 2 things. 1, they don't have a great off switch once they're initiated. So once they're initiated, I mean, they're shooting till their death practically. Don't take my word for that. I don't mean that literally. But they will they will perpetuate the inflammatory response. The second thing, what can happen, and this happens in a few different ways, but there's something called, innocent neurons get caught in that crossfire, right? And those cytokines are damaging to them. So it's called dendritic pruning, where basically how a neuron signals from one neuron to the next, which is how we do everything, think, move, etc. You've got an axon that connects to the dendrites. So the dendrites are like the kind of fuzzy looking part of the neuron, if you will. And then the axon is this long appendix, and it connects to the dendrites. And that's how one message is sent to the next. So the more dendrites that connect to the axons, that's how we learn and grow. That's how the nervous system makes more neuronal connections. And more neuronal connections means more integration and communication in the nervous system. So dendritic pruning happens, as the name implies, when those dendritic connections are pruned. They go away. They don't connect anymore with those axons. So the neurons don't communicate effectively together. That affects our ability to think clearly and memory and all those things. So, and then depending on where that happens, especially if it's happening in the frontal lobe or the hippocampus, depending on where that happens, that will result in different presentations, different symptoms, but foggy thinking being one of them. It can also, that brain inflammation can also affect neuronal signaling. So not only do we have a weaker connection, but now we're also not signaling as effectively. And so we can kind of appreciate how that can manifest as foggy thinking. So I talked about some of the big contributors to this, environmental contributors. I forgot to include chronic stress and lack of sleep and nutrient deficiencies, right? So a lot of things, unfortunately, can manifest as brain fog. But I like to think about it, I like to start with the lowest hanging fruit. So in my practice, some of the biggest contributors to brain fog that I see are stress and lack of sleep, poor diet. And poor diet can mean, that can be like the standard American diet, right? You're eating a bunch of sugar and processed foods and sodas and fast food and like rancid oil, things like that. Or it can just be poor for your body. So not necessarily an inherently bad diet, but there could be food sensitivities, like gluten and dairy are huge triggers. If you struggle with brain fog and you have for a while, I would highly recommend doing an elimination diet and removing gluten and dairy, at least as a trial. So it could be histamine intolerance. There's an excessive histamine or histamine foods, or if there's SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, like eating FODMAPs. So it could just be poor for your body, which obviously requires a bio-individual approach. Where I would start though, and where I start most of my clients, is removing the big ones. So gluten, dairy, corn, soy, and sugar. Then also you can do an elimination diet, right? Start with like something like Whole30, start with a paleo style elimination diet, follow it for 3 weeks and see how you feel, see what changes you notice. Things that promote healthy blood sugar regulation are really helpful too. So blood sugar, when blood sugar gets high, it's inflammatory to the brain. It directly damages brain cells. It directly stimulates the astrocytes and the microglia cells. So directly damaging. That's why Alzheimer's is referred to as type 3 diabetes. So things that, some like baseline things that will promote healthy blood sugar. One is break your fast with protein. So focus on protein at breakfast, in other words. That could be a couple of hard-boiled eggs or like scrambled eggs with some avocado and maybe like scrambled with veggies. It could be a smoothie, Blend together a protein powder with some blueberries and some coconut cream. Maybe put some like flax oil or almond butter or something in there. Those are a couple of examples. So focus on protein. That'll keep insulin low. You've got time-released fuel to start your day. Space your meals by 4 to 5 hours. Not only will that support your blood sugar, but it also supports your gut health. So basically start working towards getting rid of snacks. And then finish eating 2 hours before bed. In many cases, I'm a proponent of intermittent fasting. I think there's a place for intermittent fasting for a lot of people. Not going to say everyone, obviously, but for a lot of people. So starting with even 14 hours of overnight fasting can work up to 16, 18, something like that. The biggest thing with intermittent fasting to make sure it's done correctly so that you don't shift over into the starvation mechanism is prioritize protein. Eat at least, I say 1 gram of protein for 1 pound of body weight. So prioritize protein and strength training. That could be, resistance training of any kind, pool, weights, bands, whatever it is. But those 2 things will help preserve your muscle, which is what we really want to do. So start with an anti-inflammatory diet. Remove those key offending foods. Balance out your blood sugar. That alone can make a really big difference. Sometimes we need to go further. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I already do that, I've done that for years, I still feel foggy, then, and make sure you're sleeping, right? So prioritize sleep, 7 to 9 hours. There are things that you can do to support sleep hygiene, all those kinds of things. I'm not going to get into that in this episode, but really prioritize sleep. If you're struggling to sleep through the night, that could actually be linked to a lot of the other stuff that I'm talking about. But nonetheless, there are some things, no electronics before bed, walking at dusk, things like that to support your circadian rhythm. Sleeping in a cold room. Okay, sleep. Breath work for stress. Where I'm going to go next, though, exercise. Exercise is another really big one. So exercise kind of counteracts some of the effects of brain inflammation. 1, it reduces inflammation. We release opioids that help reduce that inflammatory response, help calm down those microglial cells. But we also release brain-derived neurotropic factor. So we literally grow new neuronal connections and new neurons when we exercise. So exercise is awesome. If you're watching this and you're like, I know I'm one of those people, I know I need to exercise, stop with the I know I need to and do something. Just go for a walk after meals. That'll help your blood sugar too. So exercise is really important. From there, some of the supplements that help brain support in general, omega-3s are phenomenal. Cod liver oil, fish oil, that helps tame those microglia cells. So omega-3s, you can get it from fish oil supplementally. You can eat fatty fish like salmon and sardines throughout your week. Cod liver oil is really great. So supplemental can be really helpful. And then glutathione is another one, or N-acetylcysteine. Both of those can help also with taming those microglia cells and supporting detoxification in the brain. I'm also a big lover of phosphatidylcholine. So phosphatidylcholine, not only does it help your liver, your gallbladder, the detox pathways, but it has a neuroprotective quality in supporting cell membranes. So I really love phosphatidylcholine. And then alpha GPC and phosphatidylserine. So alpha GPC helps with the acetylcholine pathways in the brain. So acetylcholine in the brain, not only is that the primary parasympathetic neurochemical, so that calm, relaxed side of the nervous system neurochemical, but it also helps with memory formation in the brain. So alpha GPC is phenomenal. And phosphatidylserine is also really helpful for not only cellular membrane health, so that the cells can communicate better together,
but it helps modulate cortisol levels. So if you're struggling with chronic stress and you're at the one of those places where you're like, I'm like, yes, I want to do all the lifestyle things, all the breath work, all this stuff, like leave my job, whatever it is to help your body cope with the stress. Phosphatidylserine is a great thing to add into your repertoire like now. You can take it before bed. You could take it like lunchish time. If your cortisol feels higher in the morning, take it then. But it's really great for supporting that HPA axis. So those are some of my favorite supplements, not only to support overall brain health, but also to support that brain neuron communication and dampening inflammation. And then, of course, lastly is I'm always a big proponent of looking for the root cause. So especially if there's other symptoms like digestive or chronic fatigue or insomnia or overall lethargy, autoimmune conditions, whatever it might be. Or if you're listening to my story and you're like, wait, we had to remediate our house. We had mold in our house. We just finished a leak, fixing a leak in our sink, like could be connected. So I'm always a proponent of figuring out the root cause. For a lot of people, those things that I just talked about can make a massive difference in your mental clarity and health. But if they don't, or there's other lingering symptoms or other symptoms in general, then working with someone that can really help you dig deeper, go beyond that foundational layer and look at things like run the labs that are needed, like stool testing and environmental toxins and hormones that are really needed to uncover what may be inflaming your brain and body, and then put together a plan based on your specific needs that may be necessary. So I recommend starting there, starting with those foundational things I talked about. If that doesn't fix it, you've got lingering brain fog, lingering symptoms, then consider pursuing something deeper. Then lastly, I mentioned that I have this favorite product. So my husband's also a nutritionist. He and I are officially in the supplement business. So we and a friend of ours launched it's a product, it's a nootropic called Fortality. The name is intended to blend fortitude and vitality. But it's a nootropic, so it helps with brain function, helps with mental clarity, it helps with performance, cognition, focus, motivation. But I'm obsessed with it because of the ingredients that are in it. So you guys know me. I've given live talks on the problem with over-the-counter supplements and how there can be contaminants in supplements and lack of transparency. So what's on the label is not actually what's in the bottle. But with this, all of that, like it's CGMP certified, it's all the stuff certified, third-party certified, but the ingredients are so legit. So there's the phosphatidylserine, there's the alpha GPC, there's B vitamins, there's what else is in there? There's rhodiola for the stress pathway. There's so many different synergistic blends. I feel amazing. I love it. But with that said, if you're watching this live, we're just promoting this. We're just going live with it. We just got everything together. I would love to give everyone a severely discounted bottle just to try it. So we're offering it at $20 a bottle just to try it out. If you like it, great. And you like it enough to write us an authentic testimonial, we'll send you a free bottle as a thank you. All you have to do is pay shipping on it. So I really want to get some feedback on it. I like it. My husband likes it. Our friend likes it. But I would love to see what other people think of it. So if that's something that you want to give a shot, give it $20. See how it makes you feel. I think especially when in the context of the other things I talked about with the laying that foundation with nutrition and lifestyle, it could be a really great arsenal in your toolbox. So I hope that helps today. Let me know again if you're watching the replay, if you are watching with me live. We've got some people that joined on Instagram. Hello. Tag me in any questions that come up. Like I said, I struggled with brain fog pretty significantly for a while. And it was really
impacting my life. So I really want to help anybody that is struggling with that. So if you do want to talk about the deeper work, if you're like, I've tried all these things, I've changed my diet, I've managed my stress, I've done these things, and I'm still freaking foggy and I'm frustrated, I offer free 15-minute consultations. We can set up a quick call, talk about what's going on with your health. Do you have any other symptoms? What all have you tried? I'll share a little bit about my practice and our process. And if it feels like a good fit for both of us, then great. We'll talk about what next steps look like. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. So I'll drop the link in this talk and you can schedule that directly. All right, everyone, that's it. Next week, I'm going to be talking about bloating. So if you feel bloated, the other most annoying symptom, join me next week and I'm going to talk about some of the biggest things that it causes that I see in my practice, but also like research based that can cause bloating. And then again, nutrition, lifestyle supplements, all the things to help de-bloat. So I'll see you next Monday. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.